Today, I'm going to share with you how to study for the LSAT if you're struggling with dyslexia. For those who don't know me, my name is Steve Schwartz. I've been teaching the LSAT since 2005, and I personally increased my own LSAT score from a 152 to a 175. I got a question here from a student who writes, I've been diagnosed with dyslexia, and standardized tests have always been tough for me because of my reading difficulties. The reading comprehension section is especially challenging. The dense passages and time limits make it hard for me to process the information quickly. I've invested in several LSAT prep books and even joined a prep course, but the strategies they teach don't seem to fit my needs. My initial score was a 145, and after months of studying, I've only improved to a 150. It feels almost impossible to reach the 170 plus score I need for the law schools I'm aiming for. I'm also working part-time, which limits how much I can study. Balancing work, LSAT prep, and managing my dyslexia feels overwhelming. Are there specific strategies or resources that can help someone like me overcome these hurdles and achieve a high LSAT score? Well, first off, kudos to you for taking on the LSAT beast despite having dyslexia. This certainly poses some unique challenges, but you still can achieve a top LSAT score despite this. Of course, I'd recommend devoting extra time to reading comprehension in your LSAT study plan. And I'm not surprised to hear that the prep books and courses haven't helped you so far, because they're typically going to be one size fits all. They're not designed particularly with students with learning differences like dyslexia in mind. I would probably suggest one-on-one coaching, in particular, working with someone who has experience helping students with dyslexia or other learning differences. At LSAT Unplugged, of course, we have a number of coaches you could potentially work with. If you're interested in finding out more, you could check out the links below to book a call with me and my team. We'd be glad to help you out. Now, I also want to mention here that you may want to seek out accommodations. Given that you have dyslexia, you may be able to get extra time or extra breaks. LSAC used to be far too strict and denied accommodations to students who deserve them. Now, if anything, the pendulum has swung the other way, and they've become far more liberal in granting accommodations, even in many cases granting students who may not need them. But you certainly would qualify, and I think you'd benefit from them. All you need is a note from a qualified professional, like a doctor or psychiatrist. You could get time and a half, double time, or even more. LSAC might remove your extra unscored experimental section from your test. They may give you unlimited stop-start breaks. So it's definitely worth seeking these out and getting the accommodations that you need. When it comes to reading comprehension, you may want to try chunking the passage. It's roughly 450 words. Maybe you'll break it up into chunks of 100 words each roughly, but even better might be breaking it up by paragraph to make the passage text more manageable. You also mentioned you're having difficulty balancing work and LSAT prep simultaneously. I'd want to make sure that you have a detailed, personalized, day-by-day study plan to help you map out your LSAT prep between now and test day. You mentioned you're working part-time, which means maybe you could still put in a solid 3-4 hours a day on average on days that you are studying for the LSAT, maybe a couple hours before work, maybe a couple hours after work. I don't know the details of your schedule, of course, but you're going to want to make sure that you can put in at least probably an hour or two per day minimum to make consistent, steady, forward progress. And then on your days off from work, you could put in even more time. Now, keep in mind that if you end up getting accommodations for extra time, that means that your test day sitting is going to be a lot longer than the standard timing. The standard LSAT with regular timing of 35 minutes per section runs roughly 2.5 hours. If you have double time, that becomes a lot closer to 5 hours, which makes for a pretty long test day. So you're going to want to block off the time on your calendar to let you take those full-length timed practice tests. Maybe you'll do more of those practice tests on days that you're not working at all. And then the days that you are working part-time, maybe you'll do half a test, maybe a timed individual section or two. Now, the LSAT in the new format is 2 sections of logical reasoning, 1 section of reading comp, and then 1 unscored extra section of either reasoning or reading comp. But if you struggle with reading comp in particular, maybe you want to devote a bit more than a third of your LSAT prep time to reading comp in particular. Maybe you want to make it a bit more 50-50. Logical reasoning and reading comp. I also understand that if you have dyslexia, it might seem like reading comp is more of a struggle, but I'd also want you to look at what does the data actually show. When you're taking a practice test, is logical reasoning just as hard as reading comp in terms of what your accuracy is like? Logical reasoning, of course, also requires paying close attention to difficult, dense text, and the time constraint can be just as challenging there, even though the passages are not quite as long. Just some food for thought. Anyway, that's all for now. If you'd like my help, feel free to reach out. Link below this video to find out more. In the meantime, I wish you all the best.